two, three, four. Well, hello. Welcome to a special episode of whatever my show is called, starring your boy Kiko One. So as you can see here, I've got a bass guitar, and I'm talking. And why am I doing this? Well, I've been seeing some people lately on some of my streams. They ask me, how do you sequence stuff? How do you just draw in notes on the piano roll? It's like magic. I swear to God, that's what people have said. And I'll tell them, oh, I just have a really good ear. However, that's not entirely true. I do have a good ear, but I didn't get all this phrasing and stuff just from listening. I grew up playing the bass guitar. Age 12, I started. It wasn't my first instrument. I tried trumpet in 5th grade. I was awful. I hated it. And then when I was 12, I started playing bass. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I think it's important for people who are starting out in music, especially if you want to make beats and stuff, especially for producers. I think it's really helpful to learn an instrument first. Here's why. Because A, you're going to learn the building blocks of how music works. You're going to learn, timing, whole notes, half notes, quarter notes. You're going to learn music theory on some level. I mean, I can't read most music, but I could play along with a band if I knew what the chords were. And also, it's going to be a part of the way you express yourself, your vocabulary. Like, for example, I can get really specific about, oh, this guitar line doesn't sound how I want it to sound. Maybe those pianos are a little too plucky. You know what I mean? Things like that you would only kind of get if you have made music yourself and played it. Now, obviously, probably the most useful instrument you should learn, in my opinion, is the piano, which I barely know how to play. The reason is because there's so many applications for piano, right? There's synthesizers, you can play bass on the piano, you can even do guitar stuff. For scoring, it's the whole, you're learning chords and stuff. Bass, there's no chords really. Of course there are, but for most practical purposes, people are just going, with their 2 fingers. But piano, you're playing chords. You're an unofficial member of the rhythm section, so you also get percussion stuff. And it just seems like the most logical instrument you should try to learn. It's really hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have big ogre hands. You see these hands? These are big hands. So piano, I don't know. I'd be probably kind of clumsy. I'm still learning a little bit. And same thing with guitar. It's really hard for me to hold down chords because I've got these big hands, But if you can dedicate the time, I highly suggest it. Learning piano. If not piano, try guitar, try bass. Here's the thing with bass. Let me turn it back on. I have a plug-in on the bass track because if I take it off, check it out. You can't really hear it, but there's a steady hum. It's not that bad, I guess. Anyway, so the thing with bass for me is this is how I'm expressing myself. So like for melodies, like dun, 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 I would go. See what I mean? I could think it and then play it. And then on a beat, I could go in and say, okay, I want like a synthesizer to do that. You see what I'm saying? And then, bass is helpful because, well, every track is going to need bass, for the most part, some rare exceptions. Bass is kind of the foundation of everything. Bass is just a useful instrument to know. It's not the most fun, I won't lie to you. Unless you're Les Claypool or Jaco Pastorius, or I'm trying to think of another bassist, like Bootsy Collins. You know, one of these guys who they've made the bass the lead, basically. Then you're going to be doing a lot of this. You know. You know what I mean? It's a lot of, you know, jazz bass. I learned jazz bass. I can't even play it now. But that intro song you heard, this one. That's the first song I ever learned how to play. It's called Red Clay by Freddie Hubbard. And that song is actually hugely important to me because octaves, it's all about octaves. Check it out. Octaves and then fifths. So this is root, fifth, octave, fifth, octave. And you slide down the neck. Fifth root, fifth octave, fifth root. And then you know what I mean? Now keep in mind, my music theory is pretty bad these days. I mean, I don't even know what notes I'm playing right now, to be honest with you. I haven't played bass in like 5 years at least. But it's definitely a big part of where my knowledge comes from, you know, of how to produce, you know. I can confidently say I know how to score a piano track. I know when it sounds off, when it sounds good. Same thing with strings, brass, you know. Again, I do have a good ear. I'm not going to lie to you. I do have a good ear, but I think in general, man, it's like, it just helps you so much more if you can learn an instrument and pick an instrument that you're going to use, you know, in your music. You want to record yourself. Don't pick, you know, clarinet. Okay? If your mom tries to make you play the clarinet, be like, I'm good. You know, unless you really want to do that. But I don't know. If you're watching this channel, I doubt it. You want to play funky stuff or hip hop or whatever. Yeah, man, like pick an instrument like bass or guitar, something that you want to record. And as far as learning, I mean, I never really fully took advantage of bass. You know, I was going to go in college, be a stand-up bass major, and I just said, nah, fuck that. Because I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do what I'm doing now, which is producing the whole thing, not just bass. I don't want to be a session musician or even a touring musician. I just wasn't interested. I want to make the whole song. But yeah, for producers specifically, if I had to recommend an instrument, I think bass is a really good one. You learn bass, you're learning a lot, either piano or bass. And how I did it is I took lessons at the local community music center, but I also I read all these Hal Leonard books. They're super old school. They're probably from like the 90s. You know, it's real simple stuff. They have you play, you know, like going up the scale, you know, in quarter notes and all this stuff. But yeah, I think before you get into the whole, how do I become the ultimate producer? I want to be, you know, 40. I want to be Dr. Dre times a million. Relax, okay? Learn an instrument first. I guarantee you it'll be so much easier if you do. And you know, if you don't have the money for an instrument, I mean, first of all, you can buy basses real cheap. But if you don't have the money for one, you can always rent gear, you know? But yeah, man, I just wanted to kind of talk about that because I know I've never really talked about it on my live streams or anything, and I think it's honestly good advice. I'm trying to steer you guys the right way. And this goes without saying, but if you want to get good, you got to practice every day. Couple hours a day. The good thing about those books is that they have lessons. So you go through, and I think they have demo CDs you can play along with. This is really old stuff I'm talking about. This is like maybe late 80s. I don't know, early 90s. But anyway, yeah, man, I highly recommend learning an instrument. It's gonna help you so much with music down the road. Don't pick trumpet, don't pick clarinet, don't pick flute. Unless you like that, unless you want to be a flautist, okay? All right, anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope this was kind of helpful. And if you've never thought about this before, think about it now. There you go. It's your boy signing off. And I need to practice. Peace.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, Nintendo can eat my butt. 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 Eat my butt.